Commissioner
Oh,
Ferrick.
Pledge of Allegiance, sorry. I'm happy.
All right, well, everyone, please join here. Hand over your heart and pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we'll take roll.
Commissioner Frericks,
I am here.
Commissioner Garcia Cadena, Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Villegas, Chair Partida.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. So that brings us to public comment, and this is an opportunity for members to address the commission on subjects relating to LAFCo, but not related to any of the items that are on our regular agenda. So if anybody would like to make general public comments, this is the time.
I have no public comment cards, Chair.
Okay, great. So then this moves us on to the consent. Can I get an approval for the consent? So we have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Frericks,
Just a quick question, apologies. Can't we just we're all here, so do we have to do a roll call vote?
Since we are broadcasting, it's usually good practice to individually vote. We could if it were, but I think typically we try to go through just so that it's publicly broadcast.
Okay, but officially we could just all those in favor and all those opposed. I mean,
Yeah.
okay. Just checking, because all right, aye.
Commissioner Garcia Cadena,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Villegas, Chair Partida.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay. So now we are on to a public hearing. And who is presenting this?
I can do the presentation quickly. This is actually JD Trebek's project, but it's pretty straightforward. So I was just going to mention it briefly. This is an annexation for the Esparto Community Service District. They own 4 parcels in its sphere of influence, and they'd like to annex their wastewater treatment facility because that allows them to be exempt from property taxes. There are no, issues, or we haven't received any objections or concerns about the projects. Alex Lapley is here from the general manager from the CSD if you have any questions. Just one noteworthy thing here. We are able to waive protest process for this application because it's 100% landowner approval, and all the parcels are owned by the CSD. So that's all we have unless you have any questions.
All right. Any questions? All right. So I'm going to open the public hearing.
One quick question, just really quickly. I do see it. I'm just I think it's on the resolution. There's on this page 4, there's what looks like, I mean, it's a I don't know if it's officially a map, but I'm just curious what parcels they are. I mean, is there a map somewhere we can just throw up on the screen, or that'd be great. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right, here it comes. Oh, yeah.
Thanks so much for providing that. I appreciate it. It's what is attached in in our packet is not as great as that. So thank you.
All right. That's great. Okay, so now I will open the public hearing. And are there any public commenters on this item?
I have no public comment cards, Chair.
Okay, there's nobody online. Okay, so then I will close the public hearing.
Happy to move the item.
Second.
Commissioner Frerichs,
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia Cadena, Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Villegas, Chair Partida.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, moving right along. Next item is also a public hearing, and this is to adopt the final LAFCO budget for fiscal year 26-27.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The LAFCO budget is a required two-step process to have a public hearing for both the draft and the final. We had a hearing on the draft budget last time. Since that, I circulated the draft budget that was adopted with all the city and the county managers because they fund our budget. And I didn't receive any feedback other than from the city manager of the city of Woodland, who was okay with it and didn't see any major issues. There haven't been any changes since the draft. So
Okay.
staff's recommending approval.
Are there any questions on this item? Nope, not seeing any. All right, then I will open this public hearing. And if there are any comments on this,
I have no public comment cards, Chair.
And no hands raised.
we'll close this public hearing. Those are very fast. All right, so now we are on to the regular agenda, and this is regarding the protest hearing for the Elkhorn Fire Protect,
We need to vote. I think.
oh, for,
The budget?
oh, so sorry. All right. Okay,
Commissioner Frerichs,
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia Cadena.
Aye.
Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Villegas, Chair Partida.
aye.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you. I was getting used to that moving along so quickly that, okay. So now we're on to the regular agenda, which is a protest hearing for the Elkhorn Fire Protection District.
Yeah, this is just an update item today. As I emailed, we did have a issue with our landowner mailing and needed to extend the timeline and reissue those notices. So the protest process will officially close on June 16th, but in terms of an update, as of yesterday, we've actually already received enough protest votes from the voters to automatically terminate LAFCO's action. We will still need to bring the resolution forward to the commission next month as a formality. I just want to acknowledge the cities of West Sacramento and Woodland and the county dedicating so much significant time and resources to this project. And I'm really grateful for their collaboration. It's noteworthy that although the Elkhorn board unanimously adopted a resolution asking LAFCO to dissolve them, during the protest process, they went door to door and as reflected in the volume of the protest forms that came in. Although we completed a municipal service review 4 years ago, and we've been at this reorganization proposal since 2024, the Elkhorn District does not have a plan to address its service issues at this point. Only now they're proposing to form a task force with their initial meeting on Saturday to start to tackle the issues that LAFCO has been raising for the last 5 to 10 years. Looking ahead, LAFCO will shift our focus to the municipal service review next year that we talked about. And as the dust settles, I think there's a few other options that are coming to starting to show up. We can talk about this more directly at the June meeting, but, one serious option is, LAFCO could outright dissolve the Elkhorn District based on the resolution that they passed asking us to dissolve them without a protest process. That would not allow us to annex it to Spring Lake. So that would then shift all the liability to the county, which staff does not advise. It's also possible that the cities may decide to shift to a pay for the calls model. Like when Elkhorn calls them out, the cities may just say, hey, this mutual aid agreement is not mutual and you need to pay for the calls that we're responding to. That'll be something I imagine the cities may want to consider. It's also possible that maybe in terms of a pay for calls scenario, that maybe we look at just looking at the calls the vehicle accidents on I-5 and Old River Road, because those seem to be the most serious ones that Elkhorn obviously can't handle with one person going out on a call. So, this is all very fresh, and I think people all need time to sort of digest this, but those are, just laying out a couple potential options. So with that said, I'd open it up to the commission for any input, and we welcome any additional direction you want to provide, but that's our update for now, unless you want to add anything.
Yeah, the only thing to add to is that the municipal services review, is part of a process that can also generate new ideas. So the review will be looking at all the districts, and it could be that there could be something else as part of a larger reorganization that is recommended from that review that LAFCo may decide to pursue that might involve other districts coming together, consolidating, reorganizing. So it's not that this is the end of the conversation. It's just kind of one stumbling block, but the conversation is going to be ongoing for the county-wide issues that we've been seeing.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, maybe just a response to Christine's original question, and thank you, Eric, for that clarification. So I would suggest, and maybe at the risk of stating the obvious, Christine, what might help us help you in tandem with the county, and that is maybe identifying the questions, the potential solutions and some of the questions and concerns that you just expressed to the county administrator, so that because some of the costs are potentially going to be borne by the county, some of the exposure could be borne by the county. The consolidation efforts could be in part driven by the county, just all while the MSRs are happening. So I think maybe just making sure that the county's aware of some of the concerns that you just expressed would be helpful to frame how the MSRs are conducted so that they're maximizing its fruit, right, so to speak, despite the situation that we're in at the moment. Might be helpful.
Anyone on this side? Lucas?
I guess the question I have is, so around the not having the ability to kind of continue forward with, like that you said, the two cities may potentially kind of come in as, we'll say responsible agencies. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but we cannot continue forward with the kind of consolidation with Spring Lake. And so, I mean, that only because this component failed from just the sort of the protest failed. I mean, we have a signed, sort of resolution from their board saying they want this to occur. So, I mean, even though there's the protest vote situation, I mean, they are a subsidiary of the county, and no, I mean, they're an independent district. I get that, yes, but I mean, there's still but our county board of supervisors still affirms the votes. Their directors. I mean, participation on their board. I mean, there's some amount of relationship here. I mean, so I'm just, what other options exist is the point, I guess, underlying what options exist to continue, make this continue forward. That's fundamentally my question. Because I think the larger issue, and we'll see this in the MSRs, this is coming. Consolidation of fire districts across Yolo County is absolutely on the horizon, like on the near horizon. And so, it's obviously great to kind of consider doing this in a amenable way where everyone is interested in having it happen. But that may not be the case in every instance, but I definitely believe that there is likely consolidation of some of the fire districts in the years ahead. So just, curious about the sort of exploration of all the options. I think staff may still be doing some of that. But just if there's any kind of clarity around that would be helpful. Appreciate it.
And I do realize that this is an update, and we're going to have an in-depth conversation about what we should do going forward. Right.
We can. I mean, we're definitely going to have an item on the June agenda to certify the results of the protest vote. And, as you wish, we can add any other pieces of that conversation you'd like to have, this being one of them, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Right.
I guess the fundamental, one last quick thing. So you've got an agency that cannot take care of its needs, like it's identified, like in terms of public safety, response times, all these things, like inadequacies. You have a board of directors of the said agency that is put forward a legal document suggesting that they want this to proceed. And then now it's roughly 70 votes, I mean, total 70 parcels or something. And we, a majority of that, we'll just say, maybe, I don't know what the totals are. We will find out once it's official. But, some subset of that, I guess a majority, but, so we'll say, let's just say 50 votes out of 70, 60 votes out of 70 total get to completely, dictate this process. I mean, I'm just trying to, yeah. And then there's no ability to kind of do anything but allow that to stand. So that's the real fundamental question I have underlying it. Yeah.
Yeah, so when a district board comes to LAFCO and says, please dissolve us, LAFCO can actually take that action and dissolve the district without a protest. But then the next part is what happens then,
Yeah.
right? So when we embarked on this, what it was a year ago or whatnot, we received the application. We said, well, we can't just dissolve the district and leave that community without any place to go.
Of course.
And that's why we added the annexation.
Yep.
And the annexation is what triggered the protest process because it was combined with the dissolution. And so in that sense, maybe the legislature is saying we're fine letting, districts be dissolved, but when it comes to adding a community to another district, we want to give that the community the opportunity to vote on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one thing that we'll be thinking about for next month is a standalone dissolution and some kind of temporary arrangement feasible or even advisable. At this point, we don't think so, but that's one of the things we're investigating. Another thing that we're evaluating is, when you start having larger reorganizations that involve many different territories, then that larger community that's affected gets to protest. But that also means that you need then more people to overturn that action. And so that's another way to kind of evaluate maybe a larger reorganization effort. And so those are all kinds of things that are going through our minds right now.
Question about the Spring Lake side of things. So that entity, current existing fire protection district has also taken an action to proceed with like switching to an advisory body, for example. So does that does that occur? I mean, and like, are those components of the actions nullified? I mean, or what?
No, those are separate actions. So the actions that the Board of Supervisors took to rescind authority from the Fire Commission and bring that authority back to the Board of Supervisors acting as the board of the Spring Lake Fire District still stands.
Because for Spring Lake, the Board of Supervisors is the governing board that's delegated its powers to a fire commission and then rescinded it. For Elkhorn, the Board of Supervisors appoints an independent board that serves its terms. So the Board of Supervisors can't rescind powers to that the Elkhorn board has. So the Board of Supervisors, when it's making new appointments for Elkhorn, for example, or other districts, can have that be part of the considerations when it's thinking of who to consider. Is this someone who's reform oriented or who's, wants to maintain the status quo? Those are considerations that you can have. But that is a longer term horizon because you can't withdraw people who are on the board serving their terms. But as new appointments come up, that is something the board can consider.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then one last quick item, which is, I mean, if the document that is online is accurate, first of all, they don't have a website, I think. So it's hard to find the actual board members and such. The document I was able to find is vis-a-vis LAFCo's website and the county's website around their current board. So 5 members of the board, if this is accurate, we have terms expiring on, I don't know if we the Board of Supervisors reappointed the term that was expiring on January 1st of this year, but there's also a May 1st expiration of this year. There's also the other, I think this must be an old document. 3 of the 5 board members had terms expiring on June 1st or June or March 1st of 2024. So, I mean, do we have inability, I mean, I'll just ask, like, what is the status of the terms of the board of directors of this agency? And the board of supervisors makes the appointments. I mean, what if the board of supervisors chooses to not appoint more people and they are unable to conduct business, as an example? I mean, these are just all hypotheticals, but I mean, I'm just trying to, I don't know where the current terms are. And if any of you know who's on the, if these are the current terms. I mean, I just looked quickly on the, I think it's on the county's webpage too, so I'll find that quickly.
Yeah, I don't have that off the top of my head. I do understand that all five board member seats are filled. But I don't know what would happen if the board just refused to fill the seats so that they lost a quorum.
We can look into that. Typically, members serve until the replacements are appointed, but every law is kind of nuanced on that.
Understood. Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone here have questions? If not, I will move to public comment on this item.
I have no public comment cards.
And no hands are raised.
All right, so then that wraps up this item as I understand it. And then you're going to, if there's anything else that people want to bring forward for consideration when we have this conversation next month, the one question that comes to my mind is liability. So if, there's an accident somewhere on I-5 and somebody sues, like who's liable for that? Like, at some point, I imagine someone is going to realize that this is not an ideal situation and somebody should have been in charge and start looking around for somebody to place liability on, right? And I think that this is a real thing, right? Sure, go ahead.
One thing I'd like to ask for next month's conversation is, so hearing that there's no website is a red flag for me. And it takes me to, I apologize, I don't know the code section. I should, because I help push it through, where there is the list of items where a LAFCo can initiate action and sort of put a district on notice or on probation, if you will, for a year's time before determining if they have not done what they need to do, then to initiate action at the higher threshold, protest threshold. So I would be interested to know, of those things, what is this district not doing that it is legally required to do and that we are legally required to ensure that they are doing? Thank you.
Go ahead, Dan.
So if, you said that as of Saturday, they've started a task force. So if this task force doesn't move forward or they're not able to, I guess say in 2 or 3 months, we see that process, there's no process, there's no progress. Does this process start over again? Does it pick back up? What is the process?
The process that we've been in, this reorganization process will, when the commission adopts the resolution next month, kind of certifying the results, that'll end that proposal process. And so then we will need to take stock, maybe wait for the municipal service review to generate different options. And then we will consider which new proposal process we might want to embark on. And LAFCO proposals need to be initiated by somebody, whether it's LAFCO, whether it's the county, whether it's Elkhorn, or, I guess it's the public can initiate things too. But yeah, there'll be it won't just automatically restart. There'll have to be a conscious decision to choose to initiate something new.
Okay, so we don't need a motion here or vote on this because this is just an update. And so then that brings us to the executive officer's report.
Thank you. I don't, this has been kind of consuming all my bandwidth, so I don't have anything much else to report. I'm looking at the long-range calendar. I do recognize that usually June or July is about the time when you all conduct a performance evaluation of the executive officer. So I'll talk with the chair about getting that on the calendar. And we did receive an application for the Davis Waldorf School to expand and get city services just outside of the city. And they've asked to actually put that application on hold because the county is also in tandem processing a use permit. Anyway, so that's all I have
Okay.
in terms of updates. Thank you.
And the Cal LAFCO? There's nothing there either.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Commissioners' reports? Anyone have anything to report?
I would just like to make a comment, Madam Chair. I want to acknowledge the work that Christine has done over the past year plus on the Elkhorn Fire Protection District and your staff as well. You've put in a lot of hours, effort, and I just want to acknowledge you for that. So thank you.
Okay. Anything on the side? No? All right. I have nothing, and that brings us to adjournment. Look at that.
Good job.
Yes.
Sure.